My interest or first exposure to AI was when I was doing my undergrad in computer science from Jadavpur University. There was a course on AI, but things have changed. After that, I did my PhD from Arizona State University, got more exposure to certain modern day AI techniques. I actually was in academia for a couple of years, continued my research, paid my own bills based on that funding. So I have lived that academician's life also. After a couple of years, I joined a research lab, Xerox Research Lab in upstate New York, in Rochester. You get to see the history, the first personal computer, the first mouse, prototype of tablet computer, all of those were created in Xerox PARC. So it was a very, as a computer scientist doing my undergrad and PhD in computer science, going to visit PARC was a very thrilling experience, to be very honest, right? And I spent few months over there, came back to India because Xerox had a new center in India, and I was in Xerox research for around 7 years or so. Then after that, 2018 is when I joined games. I had the opportunity to make AI real, right? Of course, prior to that, also we are doing some very important and interesting projects which were making a real impact and real difference. But it's my first product company, consumer facing company. We kind of expanded our wings further from data science to data driven decision making to being machine driven algorithms driving decisions on the fly. I would say data science, AI, machine learning, all of these are very interchangeably used word. Data science is where you are enabling data driven decision making. AI is probably making it much more real time, right, where you are driving the journey of the user in your platform or in your product based on some intelligence. We focus on three primary dimensions over here, right? Major dimension is hyper personalization and gamification. What kind of games to recommend to the user at what point in time, depending on how the user have been performing on the platform. Another key vertical for us, right, which is very much related, is what we call as responsible gaming. We identify the intent of the user based on their data that they generate at a given game state. What should be the correct set of actions to take? Then you can identify the anomalies. Fraud and risk are one of the key elements that we work towards under that responsible gaming vertical that I was talking about. And it's a very intricate problem and difficult problem. As I said, right, it required us to invest a little bit on certain foundational capabilities in-house, because we are talking about identifying a point 5% of the entire population from a millions of users. If we understand that they are psychologically in a different state, is being regulated from the platform, right? So they are either being stopped from playing the game, or like their limits are getting reduced by the platform. Apart from that, a lot of workflow optimization work that goes in, be it in terms of business decision making for our marketing teams to help them take the necessary calls on the user cohorts, but also in terms of the overall spends and budgets. We have forayed into the recent regime of how we can bring in more intelligence and automation into some our productivity. Let's say customer service is a perfect example, right? Overall, I think my role and my charter is to drive the entire AI functioning for the organization. One of the main reasons I moved back to India was because the problem of scale, right? And which kind of throws up certain uniqueness in any problem that we solve, right? If you think of the history of AI and algorithm, gaming has played a huge role to that. It has evolved over time. The capabilities have changed. To play games, right, is one of the major objective through which many AI algorithms gotten created. And then there was a lot of uniqueness that came in over there in terms of how you are applying capabilities of reinforcement learning, how you are maintaining game state. AI and gaming has gone hand in hand, right, over the years, right? Because gaming gives you that fantastic virtual environment to try out various algorithms, right, without impacting real life of user. But there is a lot of clickstream and data that gets created. If you think about an e-commerce or any other platform, there is a lot happening outside of the platform. The logistics and all of that supply chain is not in the platform. But in gaming, most of the data that they are creating is in the platform. We are one of the first adopters of AWS SageMaker in the country. We started using SageMaker almost from the inception stage. Of course, initial objective was because we had to create our own in-house foundation capabilities from a modeling point of view. And SageMaker allowed us to, seamlessly train, test models, right? And it gave us that framework. We did not have to think of creating an infrastructure and also creating APIs and so on and
Mhm.
so forth. So we have been utilizing SageMaker from a very early stage. We have also been utilizing a lot of EMR. It's something that we had been working towards from the very beginning stage. And one of the first things that we identified right at the time
Mhm.
of inception that we need the proper infra with AWS themselves coming up with various capabilities, and we are leveraging that. Our journey started with AWS SageMaker, let's put it that way. All our data is in S3, right? Our infra is in AWS. As data is becoming huge, right? And AI is becoming real, our AI models are really part of the user journey. So you can think of machine learning model being called on the fly for millions of users, right? For
Mhm.
millions of transactions, right? So the cost has come up as a humongous aspect in terms of development of the models as well, right? Whether we are developing in the correct configuration and etc. is something that we have been working with AWS from the data science team's perspective. We do not want to worry about the infra, the platform, etc. We can focus on the actual problem to make it take it on the ground. I know there has been a lot of talk around Gen AI, LLM, image, video, speech, you name it, right? But to me, all of these are natural progression of all the research and some of the applied research that has also been going on. Earlier it used to be like you have the problem, you have the data, you have the library of algorithms, you train your own model, right? And then apply it for your purpose. I think this concept of really powerful pre-trained model has shifted. Exponential increase in those kind of models, be it in terms of the new capabilities with new quantization. But this pre-trained model becoming available to practitioners, it has democratized. And because there are so much possibilities that it has opened up, it's not only about learning from the past data, but also creating the future.
Yeah.
And that opens up various vulnerabilities in the
Mhm.
system. So I'm expecting a lot of custom models, again, pre-built for certain industries, which has already started happening, but it will further exponentially grow. I'm also expecting a lot of movement towards standardization of LLM ops. 10 years back, when I was doing only in the research lab, I had to convince the stakeholders, right, that, okay, this can be solved. But now it's the other way around. That's where standardization is very, very important in terms of like how the platform should work out, what kind of different models can perform in what way, what are the vulnerabilities, what does guardrail mean? Because one thing is theoretically proven that AI will hallucinate, right? I mean, we talk about hallucination. Basically, what it means is that it's a stochastic system. It's not a deterministic system. There will always be certain probability of something going wrong. So how
Yeah.
to handle those kind of situations, right? And what should be the guardrails? How can you bring in that expertise? Under what conditions this might go wrong, right? How can you create the necessary rule set associated with that? A lot of movement will happen towards guardrailing, towards regulations. There would be changes from the people point of view, like how you look
Yeah.
at AI. Of course, there has to be AI literacy from everybody's perspective, but you still require the AI experts, right, to make sure that the systems that you are building are safe, are responsible, are explainable, are accountable. You can say that if there are certain decisions being made, why those decisions are being made. People, platform, and the last thing are the processes.
Yeah.
We created almost a self-regulation, right,
Mhm.
where we have our own responsible gameplay framework, but there are
Yeah.
multiple aspects to it. One is the purpose for which you are applying AI, and the other aspect is like when you are designing an AI, that AI is a robust system with proper set of interpretation and explanation that can be made auditable. AI is doing this particular job for me, right? So the imagination and innovation been triggered quite a bit. So that's a good part of it. But every good part comes with some cons. Because now you think that, AI can do anything and everything, I don't think it's a magic. There is some logic behind it. Understanding that what are the scenarios, what are the nitty-gritties, what are the nuances is going to be very, very important, right? Because otherwise, what will happen is that you would imagine that AI will do this, that, and that, and which it will in majority of the cases, but there would be failures in certain cases or the other. I think the AI readiness is not there, right? But AI utilization, there's a lot of innovations are kicking in, and I actually expect a lot of innovation to come, but there has to be a proper grounding, proper set of expertise needs to come in to do that, right? But otherwise, I would say the mental readiness is there to try it. So it is here to stay. That's not, no question about it. There are a couple of AWS services comes to my mind, Queue Developer and the AWS Bedrock. Queue Developer is definitely going to make a dent in the way development happens. Code reviews happen, right? That a lot of manual efforts will get reduced. And because it's development, it's productivity, it will never be human out of the loop. The other important service I would think from AWS point of view is Bedrock. That is going to make a difference where, you can come up with new applications on top of the models being hosted in Bedrock and capabilities provided by services like Bedrock. These two are going to really make a difference in propelling innovation. Of course, if I'm not reading any AI papers or anything around AI, I'm probably watching football or cricket or something like that. I'm a big movie buff also. These days, I don't get that much time to spend like 3 hours for a movie. We have our own security guardrails, and that's where, AWS plays a huge role, right, in terms of various different things. We have our own internal mechanisms to do it, right? Fraud detection, fraud. So a lot of this is in place already, right? As AI becoming more and more real, because you will need to ensure different kind of guardrails on top of the ones that are already in place. AI would be a great assistant for humans for anything and everything. I don't think AI is going to replace humans. I think that is a narrative that I don't believe in completely. People who are using AI will have an edge over people who are not using AI. Human will be interacting with AI to fast track their work. In humanity, I mean, these kind of technological interventions has happened forever. Early 90s, before the computation came in as a household thing, it was all about printing press. Then it get replaced by computers and printers and mobile phone, then internet. You will need an AI to do your daily job, etc., etc. Maybe, you just kickstart certain things so that you don't have to start from the scratch for some repetitive jobs, right? AI is going to get leverage for various industries, in the digital space especially. So our interaction with the digital space will go through some transformation. In the retail space, we are already seeing some of those, right? If you have to try out various different apparels, it's almost a virtual environment you are trying out like you do in a physical environment, right? So those kind of interventions are already started, and I think that some of those will further get propelled in the next 3 years or so. There are also a lot of work going towards artificial general intelligence and all of that. Look at it from the correct perspective, right? So what have we done till now? We as human beings think using some language. We have created a fantastic statistical framework to understand the language dynamics, and now we are creating all sorts of capabilities on top of that, right, to utilize that language understanding for solving various tasks. What we have not done is actually truly crack the cognition of human. We think that we have cracked the cognition because we think using some language. The analytical capability that human typically brings in, the critical thinking capability, the emotional capability, the emotional intelligence are far from to be achieved, right? To me, in its current state, it's more of a great assistant to humans rather than a replacement to humans.